Didn't write it very well either. There was a lot on my mind in life. But this one was fun.
Pam.
Remember, she always runs 5 minutes late?
3 to 5 minutes.
What she admitted to last week.
She wants to do an internship with Pete Isaacson.
Who's that?
Isn't he the athletic director? Yeah.
Here?
Is he the intern athletic
Mark's
director right
boss.
now?
Yeah. Mark's boss, yeah.
Yeah, I'm meeting Mark and somebody tonight about men's swimming. I don't even want a meeting about it, but I get a free meal.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
New York has it.
Hard to say no.
Yeah, Mark's pretty excited about this. Tom did it. He's kind of sneaking around a little bit. Yeah.
About forming men's swimming, or what?
Yeah, the potential.
Right, because they don't have men's
The
swimming.
potential to redesign the entire athletic.
Well, they're arguing for
structure.
a men's swimming team because the swimmers, what would do is bring in more students and they pay a large percentage of their tuition.
Mhm.
So you put a little bit out, but you get a whole lot back
Mhm.
because they pay for the majority of their spending and then it increases enrollment.
Mhm.
And they're always trying to figure out a way to increase enrollment, and you're increasing enrollment by individuals who are probably pretty good students. So one of the ways to increase enrollment is by increasing athletics,
Mhm.
and they won't run off, they'll stay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You have a little bit of investment, but you get a lot back.
Mhm.
It's a less expensive sport too.
I was about to say, yeah, it's not
If
like.
you have the facility, I guess.
Mhm.
And the same coach coaches both of them.
Uh-huh.
So you have the same coach coaching, so your expense pretty much stays the same. It's like track and field and cross country, those are huge teams because they only give them partials, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Some of them only have partial book scholarship.
Yeah.
I've heard that. They get some of their books paid for.
Mhm.
They smell like puke.
Which
Gee.
like, for most undergrads, it's not even that good of a, like, most undergrads don't read their books. So they're just giving them books that they're not gonna read anyways.
Mhm.
Oh, aren't we negative tonight?
My paper's super positive.
I read all my books.
They're inspired to read those books. You know what I watch with my freshmen? They read the first book, and then the second book. Because it's toward the end of the semester,
Yeah.
and they're Googling it.
They're doing the Cliff Notes thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens in this book?
Yeah.
My book came in, what's it called?
The philosophy.
Giamatti's book.
Take time for paradise.
Yes. Yep, it came in yesterday. So I'm excited to read it.
Well,
Oh,
it's
it's a
gotta
great
come.
book.
Yeah.
It
What
is
else?
a great book. We won't put it down. A baseball fan won't put it down.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited, and then I already started looking at other books that people bought with it.
Mhm.
So
When you read the book, you will be in the stadium.
nice.
I mean, literally.
Awesome.
You
Yeah,
could
that's
tell it
sweet.
was written by someone who loved baseball.
Yep.
You know, he died after eating 5 hot dogs.
What?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember the whole story.
A. Bartlett Giamatti's the guy who fired Pete Rose. He was a Renaissance scholar at Yale. Right, Renaissance scholar at Yale. And he was a friend of Bud Selig.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. And they needed who are the two guys? There's commissioners and then American League and National League. Who's the guys in charge of those? They're League what? League something or others.
I can't
But
remember. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
yeah.
They have like a commissioner of those leagues specifically,
yeah.
essentially. I
And
can't remember their
he
title.
was, I believe, with the National League for a
Mhm.
while. And he was picked up, I think, because of Coca-Cola. Somebody knew about him because he had written so extensively. I mean, he's a big baseball supporter. He was a Renaissance scholar who gets picked up to be whatever those are. And he did that for a while, and then they moved him up to commissioner.
Mhm.
And, anyhow, he's the one that fired Pete Rose, and a great deal of stress doing so. And he went to a ball game with the Baltimore Orioles, and he had 5 beers and 7 hot dogs, or 7 beers and 5 hot dogs, or something or
He made
other.
it really bad.
He walked
Nutritional
back
choice.
to his office and dropped dead of a heart attack.
Oh, man,
He was happy.
he was happy.
Yeah, sounds like it.
They're presidents.
Yeah, presidents.
American
Yeah,
League
he-
president, National League president.
I think he was National League president for a while, and then he moved in and commissioner, and,
He was American League president.
was he American League president?
86 to 89.
See? And then they moved him into commissioner, and he was commissioner, wasn't commissioner very long.
Nope, and then Selig took over after him, I think.
Civic took on, yeah, they knew,
Yeah.
they knew of him,
Yeah.
and, because of his, president of the league. But this guy, you read a book and you swear you're at a ball game.
That's cool.
On the cover, it says that there's somebody that was quoted saying he was less of a commissioner and more of a philosopher of baseball. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I got excited to read it. Haven't opened it yet though. But it's brand new. It was in the plastic
Oh,
packaging.
it's a great book.
My son's books like that, I'm not.
I know, I did open it and it went,
Yeah.
It's not that big, it's just about
Yeah,
that big, but
it's tiny.
it's a baseball person's book. It's somebody,
I'm excited.
if you like baseball, you enjoy baseball, and you know something about baseball, you'll get it. And when you pick it up, you'll say, yeah. Because he talks about the green fields and the blue sky and the white uniforms, and the coloring and
I park next to LC's baseball field every Friday just because I want to see it.
That's
I
awesome.
do.
if you've been to a baseball game, you know exactly what you're talking about. There's
Yeah.
all those things, those elements. But- So enjoy sports like that too, though. I mean,
I'm excited.
Michael Novak talks about basketball, you swear you're on the court. Till you meet him. and you find out.
Yeah, when you met him.
Must have been the ball. Okay, all right, so tell me about your papers. What'd you write about?
He wrote about hiking in the woods with too much in your pack and
Yeah, I did not write about.
undergraduate students.
How far did you guys hike?
16 miles. I carried a 55-pound pack. I've never carried a 55-pound pack.
That's fun.
It was pretty good. Yeah. Everybody else, my students' packs in both arms aren't that heavy, but I wanted to make sure, just because it was so cold, I carried an extra sleeping
Yeah,
bag,
you
I
were-
carried
yeah.
extra first aid kit, calories. It was
Did they
good.
starve or freeze?
Some people got cold. One of our students left his sleeping pad, so it was sleeping on the
Oh,
ground.
that's so cold.
19 degrees.
Ooh, that's
that
bad.
The convection it happens so fast, so they were able to kind of mitigate it with like laying down some brush and
Mhm.
stuff. But
It's not comfortable.
Army ROTC kid too. It's like, damn, bro,
Mm.
come on,
How
like,
come you
you got-
didn't, why come you didn't put coals down and cover it over?
That's a good question. I was not in that group.
I don't know how it's done, because you can get a really hot butt doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bury them. You get some good hot coals and some hot rocks, and you dig. The ground is hard to dig as part of it,
Mhm.
but you dig down into a place like the coals and some hot rocks under you, or leave the hot rocks out and put them in your bag with you, as long as they're not hot enough to melt your bag. And that'll keep you warm all night. So I think they did some things. They were boiling
I
water.
was gonna say
and
boil
stuff.
water, put it in bottles, put it in
They
your
were doing that, yeah, we didn't see their group the whole time, and Bruce doesn't like being within a certain distance of each other, so. It was cool, we literally faced no adversity in my group, we had nothing to overcome.
Really?
Yeah, it was, yeah, I had, I don't know if you know these rec students, but we had like Quentin and his buddy Jake kills more animals than my entire family lineage, so he's, you know, backwoods livestock kid. We had another guy, they were just all backwoods kids. And then I had Charles, which, Charles is fine, he figured it out.
You had Quentin and Jake and who else?
Quentin, so I had Quentin, Jake, the other kid I had is Jesse, he works at the fire station, fit kid, beanpole, but extremely fit, springy, not lazy. He was a really good one to have. And then who else did I have? I have one other student.
good guys.
He's a helicopter snowboard guide.
Oh, wow, yeah.
We got really good
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce gave me a group of guys that he pretty much couldn't kill, except Charles. Charles could have died, but
But they all
he,
were taking care of it.
yeah.
But they take care of him anyhow.
Yep,
They really watch out for him.
yep. And I've taken Charles winter camping last year too, just personally, you know, so he's familiar
Yeah,
with
well,
winter.
you had the mountain guys. You had guys who could do anything.
Yeah, Bruce took Nicole,
Mhm.
Kate. Then he had Emily Jo, he had Nick, and he had Leslie, all OP guides. So he had 4 strong people and 2 people that didn't want to be there at all. They had some interesting group dynamics and their characters came out. They did not always get along.
That happens when you're cold, tired, hungry,
Yeah,
in the middle of nowhere.
yeah,
That you don't wanna be.
yeah,
But you can have guys that, you know, they'll, no matter what, they'll come back out, they'll be eating chicken on a
yeah,
spit.
Yeah.
These guys will find you,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
yeah. We had camp set up by 3:30 in the afternoon every day. We had more water than we knew what to do with. We had resources. We had firewood pile size of these tables. Like, we didn't face any
Yeah,
adversity.
100%.
We were out walking around looking for wildlife. So I learned a couple technical skills, like a couple knots and things from my students that I'm not familiar with, not some of the like knot tying things. So
Cool.
it was really enjoyable.
These guys are like mountain men.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got
These guys
hurt.
can do anything.
Yeah.
They're the ones that, no matter what, they'll go and come back and everything's fine.
Yep. Yeah, they could have done that entire trip without me.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, no
that
problem.
group could have.
And
Except Charles, he
Except
would have been lost and never come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe Quentin was Quentin and Jesse were they're such hard workers that they can overcome things just by working hard.
Mhm.
And I don't suspect either of them are really great students. They don't work like that at school, but they work like that at things. And
Yeah.
I'd rather have those people any day. That was.
Quinn's not a bad student, he just gets work done.
Yeah.
He's just not focused, but he's a good kid.
He certainly is.
It's the way the rec majors are, they aren't always the greatest students, but boy, you're gonna take a hill, take them with you, because you'll get there, come back.
Certainly. Yep, shirt off your back kind of guys. I really liked them. Yeah, we didn't have a single argument. We didn't have a disagreement. And we were not wanting or needing well, we wanted beer and pizza, but we were not needing anything, you know, but yeah, they were really good guys. I learned a lot.
All right, let's hear about your paper.
So I wrote about sport as a platform is what I titled it. And I kind of talked about how athletes, especially the celebrity athlete, is kind of just placed in a role of being a role model or a sports person for a community, a group of people, or just the average person, even whether they like it or not. Like, they just kind of get thrown into those positions. When I was, or in my class at LC, I talked about outdoor leadership and leading by, or like, people getting placed in leadership roles just because they're managers or supervisors, and they might not be leaders, but they just kind of get thrown there. Similar concept here. I wrote 3 different sections. I talked about racism in sports, role models and spokespersons, and utilizing the platforms or the platform and giving back. And so I introduced the paper kind of talking about how in the United States sports have taken a shift pretty quickly with their views on different races participating in sports. I talked about how I kind of took the book that Wiggins edited and added on to it with today's model of sports. He hits on it with like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Serena and Venus, but I feel like it's shifted even more since then, and we have more celebrity athletes than just those 4 now. I talk about how, celebrity athletes, I mentioned LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Tom Brady. Those are household names across the world. They're not all black athletes, but I was just using them as an example of how athletes are just celebrities across the globe. And then I go talk about racism in sports and talk about how it has been declining. According to a report by FIFA in 2011, it has been steadily declining in international soccer since the 70s and 80s.
What is declined?
Racism.
Why?
That's what I was.
I'm curious about that.
And I go back and I talk about how it still exists.
Yeah, it's just covert now.
Oh yeah.
Well, you tell that to Marcus, and he'd just get fired up on that one.
Oh yeah, he would. Yep. And that's kind of this whole racism in sport. I talk about sports are integrated now, but the racism is still there.
It's like you can come and be here now, but
Yeah.
there's still all of this
Exactly.
bananas thrown on fields
I say.
and soccer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just
Soccer's
happened,
bad.
right? Just
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I talk about an example from last year. In 2017, 70 years after Jack Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball, Adam Jones of the Baltimore Orioles had a bag of peanuts thrown in racial slurs directed toward him by an opposing fan. He's actually a Boston Red Sox fan. The Eagles wide receiver, Riley Cooper, in 2013 was caught on video at a concert saying some very racial things. And he immediately apologized. Shortly after, he got a contract extension. So, racism is still there, big time. Then I talk about the diversity in sports.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Maybe this is a Elaine question more than your question. What I don't understand, I have a soccer player in my 101 class, and they miss because they travel.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have them do is, anybody has an excused university absence, is to tell me they have to write a half a page on the ethical issues that occur while they're on their trips, okay? So the soccer player, the stuff that goes on is unbelievable. The sexism and the things that are said to them. Now, this is my question. Title IX says that we're not supposed to let this stuff go on. So why is it permitted in sport? And it's not just sexism, it's also racism.
Yep.
So why don't schools do anything about it?
I don't know.
Sports are separate from reality. I don't know.
Oh, I think it'd be a great study.
Oh yeah, that would be
Yeah, that's a
interesting.
great question. I
Kind-
thought about that.
That really bad paper I wrote last week. That's kind of what I
It
like.
wasn't a bad
It wasn't a
paper,
bad
it
paper,
was
it's just
just
written
a little
bad.
messy.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was leaning towards in a couple of my sections about you get these headline issues and then people talk about them for like 5 minutes, a couple weeks, and they freak out about them and say things need to change, and then it's over, nothing happens. And I don't know why.
But universities have,
Calluses, moral calluses.
university has a legal duty because of the language of Title IX. And so we have all the, I'm gonna bring this up in my meeting on Thursday with these people. We have all these groups that are there to protect the safety of women, right? So why aren't they doing anything about protecting our women athletes?
What are some examples of what's happening? Is it with fans? Is it with coaches? Is it with other players?
Fans and players, other players, where just lewd things are said. And it happens here,
Mm-hmm.
it happens wherever they travel, and I wanna know why we don't demand that stops. It happens on university property,
Oh yeah.
right?
Being recorded.
Now, if it happened anywhere else on campus here, what would happen?
Lawsuit.
Yeah.
Now, suppose you walk down the street and you just call somebody a name.
Yeah.
Or you walk in a classroom and just call somebody a name.
Yeah.
It's just like other behaviors in sport. I mean, coaches throwing things and going completely nuts.
Yep.
If you did that in the corporate world or any other, if you did that as a teacher, what would happen to you?
I always ask my students that when they tell me, how are you ever motivated? Oh, I just need to have them, get after me, whatever. I said, well, let's do it in the classroom. I'll just call you MFer every day.
Yeah.
Tell you, get your MF and
Yeah.
you know what. How would that go down? Well, you can't do that.
And why is it okay in sport?
Yeah.
Why is it okay in sport? But this Title IX thing, that's really a big question, because we have all these
Yeah.
safety groups, whatever. So I wanna know what they're doing to protect my women athletes. Because it goes on everywhere they go. Hey, you with a great tight butt, why don't you lean over again so I get a better view?
Yeah. I was just, when I was at NAU, we were at a women's basketball game, and you could hear stuff just being yelled.
So
in
it's
the
mostly the
stands.
crowd that is,
That's the only experience I've ever seen of it at this level. 'Cause I'm-
But it's more the crowd.
But yeah.
It's also players to
Yeah,
players,
players to
and,
players.
but it's a lewd, it's
Mhm.
just. And you gotta be tough and play through it. Now, I wanna know where we would tolerate that in the
Yeah.
university.
yeah.
Or any other setting, I'm trying to
Yeah,
think of
any
another
other
setting besides like jail.
Yeah.
I can't think of anywhere else.
We had an
where
athletic
that-
director got dismissed because he didn't do anything about an
Yeah.
athlete sticking his hand up somebody's dress, right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna bring the question up, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna Pete Harper on it. I mean, the stuff that this girl writes me, and she's not lying to me, I know it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a qualitative study on it. Bring it to light. This is what's
Oh,
happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're okay with this.
And we need to do more than just study it, we need to
Yeah.
force a response, because we know it exists.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is everyone,
Yeah.
you know it exists, and then we get upset about it as a society, and then we just sweep it under the rug until it happens again.
Yeah, but this is legal stuff.
Yeah.
This is Title
Oh, yeah.
IX, this is more than just society not paying attention to it.
Mhm.
There's a legal parameter the institution has responsibility. I think these athletes could file Title IX grievances, that would
Mhm.
really scare the shit out of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Or file a Title IX grievance against University of Montana, wouldn't that shake them up?
Oh, yeah.
Do athletes get training on their rights with your Title IX and stuff like that? And like the laws surrounding
Here's
it?
a good question. I
Because
don't
they
know.
might not even know that. I mean, obviously they know that it's, yeah, obviously they know that it's wrong, but maybe they don't know that it's,
I don't know that, they said it to guys. Hey, number 22 in the basketball, hey, number 22, bend over, I really like your ass, bend over so I see that tight
baseball
end.
players get it?
Oh, yeah.
Baseball players?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, football too.
Yeah,
I mean,
with their
that was
pants.
Definitely a football
Yeah.
thing, I remember that.
But
Guys probably don't think anything of it.
Yeah,
guys don't
exactly.
think anything of
Stoked.
it, and yeah, it's a flipped dynamic. I don't know. It's an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic, I guess.
Yeah,
Well, you guys, it's sexual harassment.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but it's
Yeah.
just sexual harassment.
yeah.
And this young woman is, if she's just feeding this stuff to me, it's like, why do we tolerate that? I'm gonna bring it up in my meeting on Thursday, see what they say.
There you go.
See if they'll respond to you.
This set
That
off the
meeting's-
little Title IX people.
That meeting's right before our phone call, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
excellent.
gonna
Sweet.
set them all up. I have a question.
There we go.
What is the responsibility of the university, and don't tell me it's not our responsibility.
Yes, that's awesome.
I thought about this like the entire time I was writing this paper because I really focused on like the racism and I focused on male professional athletes in this paper, but I kept thinking of like sexism and stuff too. But I didn't know how to tie it in, so I didn't want to try. But yeah, I talked about diversity, and I thought it was interesting because the stats that Marcus had on his slides today were a couple years ago, and then I found some more recent ones about the makeup of the NBA and the NFL. 74.3% and 78.7% are the NBA and NFL are black athletes, which is pretty crazy, especially looking throughout history when it was, 60 years ago that there weren't any professional black athletes
And only
in football.
12% of the normal population is black.
Yep.
But that's where my question comes in, is what, I mean, is there any, because we've tended to rule out this idea that there's this black gene or whatever,
Mhm.
right? That makes them superior athletes, is that correct? I mean, that's, or is that still up in the air of like, we don't really know?
Well, if you came out and said that, people would say you're a racist.
Right,
In Europe, they study this. They
okay.
say the West Africans.
Sorry, my friend just got bit by a dog.
Oh,
Who got bit by a dog?
My friend. And she like doesn't have the balls to go up to the neighbor and just be like, this is the second time this has happened. So I'm like, you need to freaking call the landlord, you need to call animal control because this is not okay.
Yeah.
Who's have mace?
Well, and then I was like, but she like, they have she lives in Pullman. And she has like a shared entrance thing. So like it's a triplex, there's a shared entrance, so then she has to go through the dog's yard to get to like,
I would've shot it.
well right, and she's not, she's just a little bit more like, she's not like me when just immediately go take care of the situation. She's like, I just don't want to like, I don't want my neighbor to be mad at me. I'm like,
I don't know if you're done last dog.
I would literally come over there myself and take care of this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What were you talking about before the dog bite?
The 12%, the black gene.
Oh, the black, Norway and Germany, England have studied the ratio of the number of athletes in the marathons or the long distance. And they argued there is actually a cultural gene, like the Maasai tribe
Right,
or whatever.
the cultural aspect, we did talk about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
linked all the way through the genes, you
Yeah.
know, that over time, if this thing is a part of who
Yeah.
you are, it's like the Talomar Indians.
Mhm.
If this becomes a part of your society over time, you know, it's gonna affect, you know, 1,000 years, 100 years or whatever. So they would say it's definitely a genetic structure.
Mhm.
Whereas in this country, if you did that, people like Harry Edwards would just come unglued. And he would argue there is no such thing because there's no such thing as a pure African,
Okay.
whatever. You know, there's all these mixtures are coming on and whatever, that there isn't. But as Arthur Ashe said, you know, you're looking at these individuals, they're putting so much time into one thing.
Mhm.
And that one thing, to the detriment of everything else. This
Mhm.
one thing that you're gonna rise to the top, whereas, I think Edward said it, when you have, lots of white people have lots of other role models, whereas
Hmm.
the
Like
black,
different things.
the role model is limited, right?
Mhm.
Entertainers are athletes.
Mhm.
So they're focusing all their time and effort on
Yeah.
that, and it's that loss of cost,
Mm.
cost-benefit ratio. So, yeah.
Sorry, tangent.
Oh no, that's fine. Another crazy stat that I found was that Major League Baseball only has 7.7% of active players
Yes.
as black.
Hmm.
Because in like the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, they said that there was about 27%, but they were misrepresenting the black African American as the Caribbean people,
Mhm.
and they aren't black, they're Latin American. And
Wow.
There's actually quite a bit of
Yeah.
work on that, and
Yeah.
that has to do with, baseball takes too many resources, whereas
Oh.
basketball takes less resources.
Mhm.
You can play a basketball game and pick up just anybody, but you just can't pick up baseball.
you know,
Can't just go do that.
yeah.
And there's also argument because the game of pitch has disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
That in the inner city, fathers pitching to their boys don't exist
Doesn't
anymore.
exist anymore.
I
You
don't remember who wrote that. I think,
Yeah, I read a quote that said, most baseball players can play other sports, but most other athletes can't play baseball. Just takes this unique skill set. And if you don't play it as a little kid, you don't know.
but the Dominican Republic and the poor countries, baseball's a big deal to them.
That's the only deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stickball, whatever, and
Yep.
they haven't bought into the basketball thingy.
not at all. Nope.
And they also haven't bought into not getting an education.
Yep.
So when you have people coming out of the Dominican Republic or wherever they come out of, those individuals have a huge value structure. They actually been educated when they play ball.
Oh, yeah. They do, they're, some of
So-
my, the coolest place I ever went to was Dominican.
They must have a
Yeah.
community too, a sense of community, because it takes so many people to play pickup game of baseball.
Mhm.
They have to have a sense of values.
Oh, they play a lot of ball. They
Yeah.
play, and balls aren't even balls, the sticks aren't even sticks. They just have something, a
They
club out
find a
there.
tree branch in a rock.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and a lot of people.
Whenever we would, because we went on a few excursions when we were down there, and we went on 3 of them, and every time I saw at least 2 or 3 little kids carrying a bat, like an old wooden bat or an old stick or something. It was kind of cool.
Sweet.
And then I go talk about the integration, stereotypes, how we stereotype players. A tall, athletic black athlete probably plays baseball or basketball. Others believe that athletes from Chinese descent should play table tennis. Talk about those stereotypes. And then I get into role models. In my role model section, I talk about LeBron James and Floyd Mayweather because they're completely opposites of each other as being spokesmen and role models for black athletes. LeBron James has done some awesome things. He's a great role model. Floyd Mayweather has beaten women on multiple occasions. He carries $80,000 around with him in a backpack at all times. In September of this year, there's a TMZ cameraman caught him on camera with $50,000 shooting it out of a money cannon at a strip club in New Jersey.
Gosh.
His nickname is Floyd Money Mayweather. And I compare him and LeBron to each other, and I'm just a huge LeBron fan, so I talked about LeBron a lot in here. And then I led that into my platform piece and giving back to the community, and I talk about LeBron and all the good things that he's done, all the good things he's done, especially with his I Promise school, providing free bicycles and helmets, free tuition to Akron University for those who graduate, free breakfast, lunch, and snacks, and GEDs and job placement services to the parents of the students of the school.
That's really cool.
He's a great role model, spokesperson for the community, and not only his community, but the United States and the world. I feel like he's one of those athletes who's kind of taken his celebrity status and just done some good things with it. And I go into my conclusion talking about how the U.S. sports market is one of the biggest markets around. These people are making tons of money. In 2014, it was $60.5 billion in revenue. It's projected to make $73.5 billion in 2019.
Wait, that's the number of the sports world meeting
In the United States, that's the sports market.
income.
Mhm.
Is that Aspen Institute by chance?
It was Heitner was a business person through.
Right, cool.
I found that one through Forbes, so it wasn't scholarly by any means,
Okay.
but it was business minded. And I talk about how big sports are and how powerful they are and how they can make differences in the world. We see a lot of negative differences made, but there are positive differences that can be made.
sounds different in paper you wrote last week.
Yeah. I like this paper.
The ugly
better.
rants.
Yeah. I said at the end, in the wrong hands, sport can be detrimental. In the proper hands and utilized in the proper way, the true beauty of sport can be spread throughout.
Okay. Dan, you wanna go about your paper?
Sure. So I kind of took, my first paper was about contrasting ancient Greek sport heroes and then heroes today. And so I took this paper and kind of ran with the concept of a hero a little bit still. But then looking at, one kind of that definition of what a sport hero is and if they're characterized as sport heroes, should they be using sport as a platform for change? So I kind of took your a little honed in, I guess, more on the platform piece. I focused on 3 athletes from the book. Jesse Owens, 4 athletes, but it was Jesse Owens, Althea Gibson, and Michael Jordan as 3 athletes that despite their presence in the sport and just kind of what they did, their presence obviously helped some racial relations in the U.S. and like proving to white society that African Americans could compete at that same level. But at the end of the day, like Jesse Owens was quoted saying like, no, politics should not be involved in the sport, which is ironic because he competed in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which was basically a political statement itself, as like he beat all the German, or kind of dismissed all the Nazi race theories, and then Althea Gibson is, you know, just wanted to be a tennis player, but she was playing in the middle of the civil rights movement, so there's a quote in the book that says like, regardless if she wanted to be just a tennis player, she was never going to be just a tennis player. So I kind of argue that she missed that opportunity to be a platform for change. And Michael Jordan, the dude's been quiet, silent on the whole race thing from the very beginning. And if he is the greatest basketball player of all time, if we consider him a hero, we've only solely focused on his athletic achievements, but like what has he done to better the world of sport outside of it? So those were the three. Yeah, and so then for the athletes that I said have kind of like used their platform better was like Jim Brown. I did discuss though that like obviously his moral qualities outside of like, you know, he beat women and stuff, so hero maybe not a good word to use for him, but he's still like with his American program, or Amer-I-Can,
Yeah.
and then the BEU union, so he was like trying to use his resources more effective. LeBron James, I use Muhammad Ali as kind of like that unorthodox hero, because like I think there's aspects of his platform that, I mean, he was like advocating for like the Muslim, or like the Nation of Islam, so like the Muslim religion, but he also was kind of a hypocrite in regards to some things he did. So he was trying to be a voice. And then I also talked about Colin Kaepernick and just kind of everything that he's been up against. So I'm of the opinion that if you are regarded as a sport hero, that your heroism should extend far outside the court, the playing field, and we should be judging, society should have higher standards of what is expected of our sport heroes.
And LeBron James didn't do what he did because of race, he did it because of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
His response was not about race, but it was about poverty, about a little 8-year-old skinny boy who missed 200 days of
So like 16 weeks or something.
Yeah.
At least an article I read now.
you want to make a difference for poor kids.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, he's never made a racial statement, it's always been about poverty and helping poor people.
But he
Give
did
back.
in like response to like Trump's.
Well, yeah, that
Then he's used his voice like on
Yeah.
social media platforms to be like,
Yeah.
you know, he even started a game with like shoes that on the back said equality, like he had Nike shoes that he wore that day. So he has he's done kind
Well,
of.
it's a political statement I meant about his money, though. Money wasn't.
Yeah, money-wise.
Right.
Wasn't money.
Oh,
about-
yeah, sorry.
money wasn't
Mhm.
about race, it was about giving poor kids an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, when he goes and talks to people, he doesn't talk about his money and his fame and all that stuff. He just talks about when he was in 4th grade,
Mhm.
why he's the way he is.
Yeah.
4th grade.
So do you think Michael Jordan, like, missed the boat?
Oh, totally. And it's interesting, like when you Google like Michael Jordan impacts, I was just making sure as I was writing this that I wasn't missing something big. Like there's so many articles written about like his side, like just like people are wondering like why hasn't he tried to even do something, or even taken all the money. Like the dude's been retired now for 15 years. His line of Jordans makes him so much money, like his deal with Nike, and yet like I mean, at least based on my Google search, so he hasn't put his money to any like use, like charities or like something.
He made
That's
more
better.
money last year
Did positively
than he
impact
did in his
society.
entire basketball career
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
combined.
Yeah, and he's just going to continue making money because Jordans are more popular than ever. They've just gone into the running scene. I have athletes wearing
Football.
Jordans now. I'm like,
It's a football
What?
brand now too. So weird.
so, and people, yeah, so it drives me nuts. Anyways.
There's a few universities sponsored by the Jordan brand instead of Nike now too.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn,
their
I
football
didn't-
teams will have Jordan on their
Oh, that's
UNC
insane.
obviously is a Jordan school.
Yeah.
You should have a LeBron James on,
Yes, they should.
an example of, because I'm one from my sort of hometown. I taught there, but, okay, Ms. Elaine,
I wrote about female black athletes, surprise, surprise.
yeah, I'm surprised.
Just talked about the ones from the book. What I thought was kind of interesting about that text is there really wasn't that many females in there, which, I mean, you have to pick and choose who to put in there. And then you had Wilma Rudolph, 1960, and then you jump to Serena and Venus Williams. So there's kind of a big gap in there. But, so I talked about some of the unique things that they dealt with, and the biggest thing with female black athletes is they weren't just dealing with race, obviously they were dealing with the gender issues as well. So I talked about the women in that, and then I jumped to today and talking about are they no longer in the shadow, and I think it's similar to the statistics with football and basketball for black male athletes. For females, you know, for me growing up, it wasn't weird to see Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops and Marion Jones. So you've got like track and basketball. Where the big ones are, it's like, oh, I didn't even, you don't notice the race because it's like, there's plenty of black athletes participating in those sports. So that wasn't weird, but what was weird for me, which I still trying to figure out why it was the name Gabby Douglas and Simone Biles ring a bell.
Mhm.
When they hit the stage, it was like, oh, there's black gymnasts. That is weird. Even though they weren't the first African American gymnasts, but they have been the first to reach the significant level that they have with a lot of the gold medals and things like that. So I thought that was really weird to think, you noticed that. You really noticed them in that sport. And then what about Simone Manuel? Has anybody heard of her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
See,
I
I
was
don't know what
I
it
was
is,
like
I don't
you,
know her
Brock,
sport
was like,
either.
who is this girl? Well, she won the first gold medal of any African American swimmer in the 2016
Okay.
Rio Olympics.
Okay.
So, yeah, I
She's
thought that
a-
one was interesting.
Stanford?
Yeah, and she swims at Stanford. She just barely signed a deal with TYR to go pro. And in her,
Is she American or is she from abroad?
She represented the U.S. at the Olympics. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
She grew up in Texas, born in Texas. So, yeah,
Pretty American.
yeah.
But
That's
she
pretty
and
good.
Katie Ledecky were the big headlines of that.
Uh-huh, yep. So I guess if you follow, I must not have followed swimming very
Yeah, I
well
guess
in the
that's
last
right. I love
Olympics,
watching
because I was
swimming,
like,
yeah.
What?
man, I don't
So
know,
cool.
Simone
Sinaj, nothing.
Manuel.
Yeah.
And she,
Shout out
so-
to Michael.
interesting with the contract she just signed, so she actually has 1 year of eligibility left with Stanford, but she's foregoing that to go pro. And so she signed with TYR, which is the swimming brand company, and it has an inclusion rider in there that they will extend meaningful opportunities to traditionally underrepresented groups. So she's using her stance and her, her agreement with TYR to reach out to people like her, basically, to really reach out to the underrepresentation of diversity in that sport, which I think is interesting. And then I lastly talked about, of course, Serena, because you can't leave her out, because she's such a huge figure right now in the world of sport. Some really interesting things about her. Here's some stats. So 72 Women's Tennis Association single titles in her career, 801 singles wins to 136 losses, and she has attained over $88 million in prize winnings.
Just in purse?
That's in prize winnings.
Whoa.
Yeah. I thought that was
Tennis is
crazy.
lucrative.
Holy
I
cow.
remember she didn't,
Well, it's all her endorsements.
she took off huge blocks of time and not competing too.
Yeah.
Remember, she just
That's what's
decided,
even crazier about it.
Yeah.
I'll just go do 1 or 2 this year, I'm gonna do something else, and she did her clothing line, and then
Yep.
she did some studying, and she just took time off, she's like, I did enough this year, I'm gonna do something else.
Simone
Yeah.
Manuel's net worth is $3 million.
Drake.
Really?
Wow.
Net worth.
So the interesting thing I think about now with a lot of these athletes that came to my mind was every one of them has a website. Every one of them has books and all sorts of stuff out. They have Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts. So they're all very much in the public eye and putting themselves even more in the public eye. A lot different than the Althea Gibson, who was like, I just want to play tennis.
Mhm.
I just want to play tennis and be a good tennis player.
But they have agents.
But they have agents,
Oh,
They
yeah,
have agents. You
Yeah.
have to remember that it's a different corporate world for them.
yeah, it's just totally
Althea
different.
was supported by a doctor's wife, right?
Yep,
Mhm.
yep,
So she wasn't under a corporate umbrella, she was just under a sponsorship. And that sponsorship, and so it wasn't about corporate America. All these people have agents, and agents immediately you got a
yeah,
whole little corporate structure going and, selling the product.
And there's
Yeah.
people that
Big
control
difference.
their like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Isn't that it's just so different how
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
it's just
like how
in your
they-
face, yeah, I think it's just more maybe than what it was. And then all of these people, I talked a little bit about the racism that they have faced. So like Gabby Douglas and Simone Biles, there was a reporter during the 2016 Olympics, I guess, that just kept getting them mixed up. And if you see them, they look nothing alike.
No.
No,
So
not
it's
at
like,
all.
he just kept getting them mixed up and then he just kinda like blew it off like nothing. There was an Italian gymnast, I gotta find the quote here, who, where is she at?
Do you know why they can't get them mixed up? What's going on? You never look at them in the face.
You don't actually look and see what they actually look like.
They don't see them as individuals, you're just looking at a body. If you look at someone in the face, you'll see the person. So there's no eye contact, they're not looking at their faces, they're just looking at the body,
Yeah.
you're seeing the brown body.
Yeah. So this Italian gymnast was being interviewed and she said that if her skin would have been black, she would have had a better chance at the all-around title during the 2012 championships against Douglas. And then the other thing that's funny is, not funny, but interesting, is Gabby Douglas has been criticized by the black community for her hair, for the way she does her hair during competition. 'Cause during competition, they just have it pulled back out of the way. It's not straightened, looks nice, and so it's this idea that it kind of solidifies this stereotype that black people have bad nappy hair. Is what some of the
God, you can't win.
No.
yeah
Straighten your hair, you're too white, leave it curly, you're too black.
yeah
It sucks.
it's kind of interesting.
Cause that one lady that got, that caricature that was drawn of Serena, they took
Mhm.
the other lady and with like straight blonde hair and stuff,
Yeah.
they just made a caricature out of her that nobody even talked about, and it was a total
Oh, yeah.
abomination. Can't win.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what are you guys gonna read for your last book? We decided?
This one?
Yeah, I think it's.
Well, everybody has their own book they're supposed to choose, so.
That's
Yours is history?
That's for philosophy.
That was
That's
philosophy.
philosophy?
Yeah, that was
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're doing
I thought
American
this
sports?
one was on
That-
the.
yeah.
Did you guys all buy that?
American sports.
I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
in
the
my
one I have.
drawer. I think it is in my drawer.
Brief history of American sports. Is it good? I'm assuming it is because you put it on the list.
Okay, so.
Yeah, all your books are, college presses.
A3.
Do you have a copy, an extra copy of that book?
Maybe. I don't know because my little work studies have rearranged to give me some books everywhere. Miss Elaine is in charge
I
of
can look
those.
for it for you.
Oh, no, I mean, either way.
It should be in order, so that it probably should be over
Kelly
here.
Gorn and Goldstein, or Gorn and Goldstein.
Did she do it by title? Or
Gorn
author?
and Goldstein. It doesn't look the same way as this book does.
These are all B's.
Geez,
This is nice.
You don't have the Dewey Decimal System in here?
You probably need it.
well, you just have them alphabetical by author.
I said that in my class, at LC.
What was it called?
They all looked at you like you were
No one
speaking
knew what
over.
it was. And I was like,
A brief history of
cause I forget, like, I feel like I'm still
like
there,
silver.
but I'm like just,
Like,
there's that generational like line right between me and them.
Gold, Gorn, G-O-R-N,
She said it looks a
Oh,
little
black
different.
and top. Oh, it doesn't.
Gorn,
Mine looks exactly like
G-O-R-N.
yours, yeah.
I went down to the library, I was like, I can find this book, I'm just not sure where to look.
It won't
But
look the
you know
same,
how it's set up
my
down
book's
there.
older.
She's like, okay, well, these numbers, I was like, I know what the numbers mean, just
Yeah.
tell me what floor I need to go to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that looks a lot different.
There you go.
Got lucky.
Does anyone else need?
I think mine's in my drawer.
Nope, they got them.
No, but I have a library at home now.
Yeah, it's not a bad book at all. Lauren Goldstein, it's pretty good.
Well, we need to write by December 11th, so it's
Mhm.
done. Is that right? No,
Yeah, December
Yeah,
14th
we're
is the
done
last
with
day.
class.
December 14th
Is
is the
the
last day.
Friday. It's Friday of finals week,
So
so.
when do you wanna have us have our papers done?
I'm having a cataract surgery on the 12th, so you guys, it would be really nice if you had it before that.
Before then? Okay.
So like
Fun
the
reading.
weekend before that, or?
Yeah, when would you
That'd be
want
really
them?
fun
What's
reading
today?
papers, huh?
Oh, so we
And I
have to.
have it done before then.
And
Marking all
You can
over.
read a
Yeah.
lot over things.
Oh, I'm gonna write so much over things.
Oh, I feel like, yeah.
There's 285 pages.
We got 4 weeks.
Well, you have a holiday
quite.
coming up and nothing else to do.
Oh, I have plenty.
3 weeks.
Oh, funny, I
At
like
least
funny.
no
3 weeks
classes.
with the holiday
I
week.
have a couple airplane rides that I can read on.
There you go.
Because she's having that surgery.
It's not bad, it's pretty good reading.
Hopefully
Goes
we
fast.
I have a
What's
feeling
that
I'll,
one?
I'll have that
can-
other book, right?
260 divided
Should
by
we-
3 is 80.
Oh, yeah, it'll go really fast.
Yeah, so, I'll just focus
So
on
there's
this.
It
7.
could be like 100 pages.
And that paper will be
The
better,
first 2
because I
chapters,
have some time to think about it.
that give you 81 pages.
Okay, chapter 1 and 2.
Chapter 1 and 2 gives you 81 pages.
Then
Those
what?
are big chapters.
And
We were trying to get
yeah,
87 pages at a
Chapter
time.
3 and 4 goes up to 177. You might have to go 3, 4, and 5.
Okay,
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
and then finish.
Probably like the first 3, or 2.5 to 3 for the first section if you can. And
First-
then- it's actually 7 months shorter.
So can we do
7, so
1
5,
and
6,
2,
7.
3 and 4, 5, 6, 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All in favor say
Just keep
okay.
it,
You're
just
just
read,
not gonna stop.
just read.
Goals to be done.
Just read. Okay, papers. I gotta go to a swimming thingy.
Doc, you ever read this?
Well,
And
it was
then
nice if I
Messi
could see it a little
Garcia.
closer. Messi Garcia.
Enjoy it. Short read.
So is Mark gonna get paid extra if he,
Doubles his team.
He's
Or he
actually
gets
gonna
an
get, he's gonna
assistant.
get his assistant
Okay.
back. He's stoked.
so it won't necessarily be too much more work for him, he'll just actually get help?
Yeah. More responsibility, probably get paid too. It's kind of fun.
I get to read this?
Yeah, I have 100 copies of that.
Okay.
I used to hand it to
Wait
my
till you get an
students
intern.
or the undergraduate students
Make
at the
some
University of
changes.
Wisconsin when they come in and ask the most
Yeah,
absurd,
make the
silly
changes when
questions.
the real AD comes
And then the
in.
new president,
And
new
do
AD.
it.
And,
Read this,
and new president, yeah.
Then
yeah.
come back and still have a question, then I'll help you. It's a military
I'm super
colloquialism.
uninterested in
When
stuff.
somebody asks a dumb question in the Marine Corps, it's
That's it next year.
means figure it
What
out.
is the
It's a really good
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
new president?
I think you'll do it.
Alright.
July 1 is when they
July
want,
1.
yeah, cause he's done June 30th or
Yeah.
whatever.
Free
Yeah,
dinner.
fiscal year.
And
Where you
they
eating?
already have the committee together and they wanna have the new guy start July 1st.
And what about
He hasn't
AD?
been able to do that.
I don't think they're too pressed about that one. As
Oh,
pressed.
sorry.
Where are you
I
eating
I
tonight,
guess we
Doc?
should turn this off.
They have someone,
No, Jesus!